You're listening to a brand new episode of One Pivot Away, Corporate to Creative, with Chad Sturley. Good morning and welcome back to One Pivot Away. Today is a kind of pinch me moment because on the other end of this line, 17,000 kilometers away from where I am right now, ending off his day as I start mine, is a guy who has been a massive inspiration to me and whose journey I've followed for more years than I can even remember. A man who has indisputably become one of the godfathers of YouTube, having garnered a following of more than 4 million subscribers. He's the guy who's done all of the 30-day challenges, who mastered the dad joke before he was even a dad, and whose cinematic, personable video style keeps me in awe every time I open one of his videos. It's none other than Matt D'Avella. Welcome, Matt.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you so much. I don't know how I'm going to possibly be able to live up to that intro, but I do appreciate it.
And also, I know you've been on a bit of a break from podcasts, so I really appreciate that One Pivot Away is on the return line, coupled with an Ali Abdaal interview.
Yeah, that was cool. I just did, it must have been like a 3 or 4 hour interview with Ali. We kind of did something for my stuff, did something for his, but it was cool and quite cathartic because I started around the same exact time as Ali, and both of our channels blew up around the same time, and we've both been inspirations to each other over the years. And so it was cool to finally connect with him in person. Just excited to chat with you though, knowing that you've been a part of the Master YouTube community for a while and have been a part of, YouTube and the creator industry for a while as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. No, it was very cool listening back to that episode, and as you say, kind of not realizing how much of an inspiration each of you have been to each other, which is kind of crazy. But I think there's something so special about being able to connect with creators. So the fact that you've been open today has been absolutely awesome. I wanted to, obviously you were 4 million subs. There's a super strong chance that every single person watching this video, already knows you. But for those who don't, I wanted to kind of start today by just doing a bit of an overview on your kind of career to date, all the way from the studies, student debt, to, minimalism, that kind of thing. Just a kind of whistle-stop tour to Matt D'Avella.
Okay, yeah, that's a tall task, and I'll do my best, and feel free to jump in. It's hard to pinpoint like an exact starting point for me. I've just always been interested in making videos. That was something that I was always excited about and interested in, especially in high school. I was 16 years old, just going to the video lab in the video department to edit videos during my lunch breaks or my study halls. It was like any time I could get in the edit was time well spent. And that was where I started to cultivate the passion for making videos. I started like not the traditional route. I would say I started out by just making little videos here and there, sketch comedy videos and whatnot, and eventually started to try to get paid to make videos. And so that was doing wedding videos here and there. Eventually I started working, I did like bar mitzvahs and local television commercials, anything that would pay me money to start to pay off some of my student debt, which you mentioned I graduated with just about $100,000 in student debt. And so it was trying to marry that passion of making videos, telling stories, and getting better at the craft, while also trying to get myself out of this hole that I had buried myself in. I don't know how you get into $100,000 of debt with a broadcast telecommunications degree, but somehow I managed to do it. Just slowly worked my way up, making videos, and eventually started working with some more corporate clients, and that allowed me to make a little bit more money. I worked with some startup and tech companies that helped open the door quite a bit for me in terms of my filmmaking career, and helped me to really start to get better as a filmmaker. And then I would say the big leap in my career was filming and directing and editing my first documentary called Minimalism, which we started in 2014. And it was the process of about 2 to 3 years of making that film, shooting it, editing it, re-editing it. There were so many different cuts and so many different takes of it. We went to film festivals and did everything we could to try to get this thing out there. And we ended up, lucking out and getting it on Netflix just through some backdoor where somebody like, we were able to connect with this agency that had a legacy deal with Netflix. And so then we were able to like sell it to them, and then they just published it on Netflix. And so then I think it was my birthday, December 15th, 2016. My documentary went live on Netflix, and then it just went crazy, like viral. It was on the trending page and got seen by, I think it was like estimated at over 100 million people ended up seeing the documentary. And that was my first original film. It was the first time I had kind of put my vision and I had collaborators on the project, Josh and Ryan from the Minimalists, as well as the media team at Spire, who all did their part to make this film amazing. And but it was the first time that I was able to like really put my foot forward as a director, as an editor, and a storyteller in that way. And it just showed me what was possible. And so that's when I started thinking like, oh, it would be cool if I could keep doing this. Like, I don't love making wedding videos. Like, can I continue to make films? Yeah. And so that's when I started that transition to YouTube, which at that point there was many highs and many lows on the journey of becoming a YouTuber and a full-time YouTuber. And, to the point where I'm now, where I'm still making videos and still loving it, knock on wood. But, we can get into that, but that's Absolutely. A long story. So I figured I'll stop right there and I'll let you.
No, that sounds good. As you say, there's definitely bits to the story that we'll be coming back to. I think I actually also want to just set out sort of what this podcast aims to do, just to kind of maybe tailor some of what we're going to cover today. So key is obviously creative lifestyles and what creative lifestyles can offer. And so for anyone who is sitting in a cubicle, who's kind of wondering what else is out there, this is kind of a place for that. The other thing is I don't want to kind of, gloss over the messy middles. And so, I definitely want to cover all of the messy middles and, some of the uncertainty, the struggles going through. But just before we get there, in terms of your student debt, you mentioned that. In hindsight, obviously it was a big number. If you were to kind of redo it today, would you have still studied that degree?
No way. No way. Like especially not today. Like back then, sure. I think it was a hard decision. I mean, there wasn't like this, you almost at the time, you felt like you had to join the industry. You had like, if you wanted to make films, you had to like work for a film studio. If you wanted to make TV shows, you had to join a broadcast network. And so I didn't think there was really much opportunity. I wasn't really sure how to do it, even though I was starting to do this stuff on my own. And I would say that like, when it comes to going to university, like the best thing I did was all of the effort that I put in outside of the classroom. Okay. And so that was one like difference that I did see early on, where a lot of classmates were, they just followed the syllabus and they did the work and they handed it in on time and they got good grades. But I didn't see a lot of people really kind of like nurturing their passion, their creative, whether it's a side hustle or whatever, like trying to find things that really lit them up and lit a spark. And so that's one thing that I think I did really well, which was like, I was not going to let a syllabus dictate what I created. Like, yes, I had to follow the syllabus and I had to like turn in work. And, sometimes I would try to even bend the projects and ask the professors if I could turn in a video instead of an essay to see how I could like inject video into every class that I took. And so, I think it was really just putting in the work outside of the class hours, like starting to get my first jobs, shooting, editing, like buying my first professional camera. Those were the steps that laid the foundation. And I think I could have done that without a degree. Mm-hmm. I don't think I made any connections, through this broadcast, department that carried on after school. And so I don't like, in hindsight, I don't think that the degree was necessary. And like, for me, if I'm hiring a cinematographer, an editor, and which I am right now, I am not asking, I don't know where any of these candidates went to school, nor do I care. I care, about so many other factors. Mainly, can they make great work? And that's like the bar. And I think that's what, if I could go back, I would have rather not had that debt. Although it did teach me a lot about money and finances, and it certainly helped me prevent making any worse decisions after school.
Yeah. And I suppose, that is, as you say, things have changed so much. So, when kids are getting out of school now, there are a lot more options, and ultimately the university kind of option just doesn't feel like it's sort of the right thing anymore. Out in the UK where I am, people are racking up so much debt. The interest rates are like higher than out in the market, which is absolutely crazy. So yeah, I think it's important to mention that there are some other options out there. You mentioned just in terms of the ability to kind of keep your passion without it kind of becoming work. I think that is something that a lot of people go into a career because they enjoy it as a hobby, which clearly was the case with you with video. In school, going into the video edit suite and constantly wanting to work around video. So how have you managed to keep that passion alive and to actually enjoy it, even though now it is work? Obviously, it still is your hobby. It still is what you enjoy. But I think it's all too easy for hobbies to become just another job.
Yeah, and it did. It did. And I haven't always been perfect at that. And it's something that I have struggled with off and on as a creator. I think there is the reality, no matter how many subscribers you have, that you have to pay the bills, and it's like very few people are fortunate enough to make enough money that they never have to work again. Yeah. There are a few creators that can say that, but I think for the rest of us, it's like, partly is, you do need to pay the bills. I think in looking at what I've done on YouTube, I think it was really focusing on, if I look back at some of the mistakes that I've made, I would say scaling too fast.
Yep.
Anytime you're adding on too much pressure, when you're adding on team members, you're adding on payroll, you're adding on the number of videos that you're trying to produce every week or every month, the amount of platforms that you're creating for, when you add more and more and more, it's very easy to start hating your job very quickly and turning your passion into a job. And regardless of the rewards, regardless of the fact that, hey, this is giving me more views, more subscribers, I'm making more money, if you start to stretch yourself so thin and you start to pile on so much pressure on top of yourself, something's gonna break. Yeah. And you're gonna end up not enjoying it, and you're gonna go through these cycles of burnout. I would say most people, it's very rare that people can tolerate. There's a threshold that everybody can tolerate, and then eventually they'll break. And so that's something that I found with myself. I found it early on when I started YouTube. I didn't really hire a team in 2018, 2019 when my channel really started to blow up, but I did start to add on more videos. I was like, oh, let me try to make more videos, and then, oh, let me keep up this newsletter, and then let me make social content. And so it was a matter of adding more and more and more, and then burning out and taking a rest, and then coming back, and then burning out again, and then doing that cycle many times over. And then eventually I was like, all right, something's got to change. Let me hire some staff to help me work less. And that didn't work either.
Yep.
And it didn't work, I think, at the time because I just hired too many people. I hired too quickly. Ironically, the name of my company was Slow Growth. And so I came up with that name because it was this idea that I needed. It was medicine I needed to take. I knew that I was always rushing. I was always trying to go fast. And I know I needed to just embrace the slow journey. But I unfortunately didn't at the time. I was just, to my credit, I think I was just very excited about the opportunity and building all these things. And so then I hired too many people. We had 5, 6, I think there's 8 employees at one time. And then we had many freelancers. And then you think about the amount of projects you're trying to start at that same time. And then I'm the bottleneck for everything. We grew too fast and I didn't have the right systems in place. I certainly don't blame any of the employees that I hired. They were all amazing and incredibly talented. I think it really all comes down to, one, my ability to manage a team in general, a skill set that I didn't have at the time, and then taking on too much too quickly, that again, everything started to fall apart and it started to wear on me, and it created far too much pressure for me in a creator-led business. And so, yeah, those were those 2 key points when I think I started to lose the passion for it. And then it's really been a journey back from there. My team really simplified to being a solo creator again in 2022. So at this point now, about 4 years ago. And, since then I've gone through, more challenges adjusting to becoming a parent, balancing being a parent while also trying to be a creator and trying to be a present father, and then also an ambitious creator. Is something that I still challenge with, and it's difficult. But the silver lining of it is that I've come back to finding the joy in creating again. And so it was like, it's the journey wasn't perfect, and it's never going to be, but it's been nice lately to start to find the joy in creating again, and trying to build something bigger, because I think that's the excitement. It's not just about like building something bigger as in like getting another 1,000,000 subscribers. Like that to me doesn't feel as rewarding as just looking at the videos and the stuff that I'm making and the people that I'm working with and being like, wow, like we made that. That's amazing. That's the feeling that I'm currently chasing.
Amazing. It's great to hear that you've kind of found that spark again. And you mentioned, and you've been quite sort of open about the fact that you hired too soon, and being a manager rather than making kind of videos was not aligned with what you sort of wanted to be doing. I see you are hiring again, as you said, and you mentioned there. So how has sort of that happened? And walking from kind of admitting that you made a mistake, kind of coming back to your core values and your spark, to kind of saying, okay, well, actually, maybe I want to try this again, but maybe just on slightly different terms this time. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's looking at the lessons from the past experience and scaling, and I think certainly it was too much too quickly. And so I had a couple video editors, but I also had a couple writers, and I had like a social media manager and a project manager. And so like it was just far too much to manage. And so now it's just really starting intentionally with the main role that I'm hiring for is a senior editor. And so this is, the core of what I do is storytelling, and specifically writing and editing, and obviously the whole production process and filming and everything's important that goes into making a video. But I think my unique skill set is through crafting long form stories, and it starts with the writing, and then the story actually gets written through the edit, and that's when you start to piece together what the message is. What am I trying to say here? What's the story what's the journey that I want to take the viewer on? And so it's starting with that and being like, hey, first of all, let me just really try to dial in and find somebody that has a lot of experience and that can edit the way that I edit. And so I'm being slow about the hiring process. I'm, getting a lot of candidates in. I'm looking through all of their applications, and just being a bit more methodical about choosing the right fit for the skill set that I need, which is editing long form YouTube videos. It's like the short form, it doesn't matter that much. Like editing long form videos is really a unique skill. And so really looking for the experience of people who've cut a lot of videos over 15 minutes long, and identifying somebody who might be able to fit within the same kind of flow and the same kind of editing style that I have. And then in addition to that, it's like bringing on a cinematographer / editor in person in Sydney that can one collaborate on the assistant editing work to set up the senior editor with the files they need, helping me with every shoot. So it's like freeing up every part of the production process. So from pre-production to having them actually on set and ready to film, however many videos we need to film per month, plus having them plug in to the edit when I need. I think I'm not focusing on all these other areas in terms of like social media management or project management. It's still very, very small and very, I would say, still bootstrapped, and then pulling in freelancers when I need them. So whether it's a copywriter or a designer or, web builder or whatever it is, I can work with freelancers and scale up and scale down as needed.
Yeah, no, definitely sounds a lot more methodical and kind of carefully thought through. So yeah, it's just one of those things. The reason I asked it is because, a lot of the times we kind of make a mistake, kind of admit to making a mistake, and then kind of, do it again. And, so it's great. It's great to kind of hear from you that, you've thought through it a lot more this time, and a bit more slow and methodical.
Yeah, and I think on top of it too, it's these are the only two roles, because I think they're the biggest bottlenecks and the points that are slowing me down right now. Like right now, if I spend about 60, like my last video I tracked pretty methodically, and I spent 65 hours working on it, probably 45 to 50 hours in the edit. And so if I could free up 25 hours of that edit, that frees up my time to do a lot of other things. One, I can, work on the next video, or I can work on a new course, on long form, making long form videos. There's a lot of different areas and a lot of different things I can do with my time when I free it up. And I think it's also about kind of like approaching it in layers. So it's like, okay, once I get this layer done, then I can move on to the next one. I don't want to move on to, let's say, an operations person, or move on to a social media manager until I've like checked off those boxes and I know that's something that I need to unlock. And so it's like, let's just make some great videos. And once like the team of, if it's 2 or 3 of us making great videos and we're doing it consistently for a few months, then I can start to think about, all right, is there somebody else that I want to bring on? Where's like the bottleneck now? And that it might stop too. It may just be 3 people and that's it. And then I'm like, I don't have to scale beyond that. And that's great. Or it could turn out that I don't actually find the right person. There's not a right fit. And then I continue to do what I'm doing now, just at a slower, more methodic pace, and just being content with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose, if we think about the kind of movie making process, where would you say the joy then comes in for you? Because if it's not in the edit, is it the script writing? Is it the chasing the new idea? Is it kind of seeing the polished product at the end? Like, where do you get the most joy and kind of excitement from?
Something that I've been doing recently is I've pulled up a Google spreadsheet and I've got a hell yes or a no attached to each task. And so I'm just like, as I do things throughout the day, I'll like chuck a task on this master spreadsheet and I'll just like mark down whether it's a hell yes or a no. And I've been surprised by a lot of the YouTube process that has been a no.
Yep.
Like some of it's like okay, or like, yeah, no, it's not terrible. But I'm just like, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. Like shout out to Derek Sivers. And so I have been surprised by that it's largely been a red nose and there's just like 4 or 5 hell yeses. And the hell yeses for me are around coming up with the ideas, exploring those ideas and writing them out. That's usually just how I start, is just like writing and reading, watching videos, trying to digest a particular topic and learn as much about it as I can. That to me is really exciting, starting to piece that together through the script. It's like, I don't like recording the voiceover, but it's part of the process. And I have to do that, unfortunately. I'm not going to outsource that to AI. And then there's other parts of the process that like I just do, but I wouldn't like. I don't want to organize my timeline. I don't want to chop up my voiceover and assemble like the primary storyline and the primary structure of the edit. Like that stuff's okay. I think it's when it comes down to like adding these media clips, reshaping it, starting to understand what this story is and what we're trying to tell. That's where it starts to get a little interesting for me. Then when we're like, all right, now we have to add media clips on top of this footage, I'm like, I don't want to like go on YouTube for the next 6 hours and just pull clips like that. That to me I've done it so often that it's not interesting or novel. And I'm like, I wish I could just, like fast forward, Adam Sandler, just fast forward through this part of the edit because I'm not enjoying it. And so I think also, like what I'm trying to do now too is get outside of my office and my studio, where it's like, it's easy to make videos from your studio or from your bedroom or wherever it is. And if you have something to say, I think that can be a great way to make content and make it really efficiently and quickly. But I think I get a little bit bored by it, where I want to like get out there and I want to interview minimalist architects and I want to talk with people who've embraced minimalism and it's changed their life. And I want to explore what's happening in the longevity movement, or what's going on with, masculinity and men's vulnerability. And, like I want to talk to people out in the real world and start to make my videos feel more like documentaries again, which like sometimes they do, but like, I think really just getting out there and capturing beautiful cinematic footage. I also think it's a hedge against what's happening now with like all this AI content and all this like video generated crap, where I'm like, I think that it's more becoming more and more unique to actually go out there and capture these kinds of stories. So I wanted to focus on that, and that's something that I'm excited about. And so it's kind of the process of putting those pieces together, finding the right team to capture this stuff, being able to see what we created. And then we'll see how it comes with the edit. Like I haven't actually worked with the editor in many years. And so it's going to be a learning process to figure out how can I impose my direction and my ability to tell stories without being in the edit. I think it's going to be tricky. But yeah, that's something that I still haven't learned yet. So that I'm in the messy middle right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is crazy because you've been, doing it for so long. I think it just is testament to the fact that this messy middle or challenges, it never is kind of as easy as it looks. And so, that's why I think it's so awesome that you're very vocal about this sort of stuff, whether it's on the newsletter. There's a particular one that I want to pick up on. You probably know the one, or podcasts or your videos. So, that's great. Just quickly, while we're there talking about, being a solo creator versus working with others, you mentioned your kind of reignited spark now. Part of that is the excitement for working with other people. And I was kind of did want to pick your brain a little bit about some of the challenges about being a solo creator, and as you say, being stuck in your room, being just with yourself. Like talk us through the loneliness, if that's a thing, and why creating with someone else or having someone else involved in the project kind of changes the vibe a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not somebody who's suffered too much with loneliness. I find that I don't need my cup to be filled too much with socializing. I think when I'm not socializing enough, I can start to feel it, and I start to feel a little bit more shut in. I feel a little bit like just having conversations with people becomes a struggle, and I think I need to do it more regularly and push myself to collaborate and connect with other people. But I also am fully happy to be alone for 8 to 10 hours, especially when I have kids and it's just chaos. The morning I got one of these, is it a Whoop band? Yeah, it's a Whoop band. And so it'll read your stress levels. And I mean, it's based on your heart rate or whatever, but it's they're I'm doing the morning routine with the kids, and the Whoop band, right when I drop the kids off, the Whoop band will send me a message to my phone saying, "Hey, great workout. You really put in a solid effort." And that's just the chaos of having kids, and the fact that I'm my heart rate is just through the roof, and they're constantly testing my nerves. And so my life is just crazy hectic from the moment we wake up until the moment we put the kids to bed. But when we drop them off for daycare, and once I go to work, it's the easiest part of my day. And just to be by myself for 8 hours is just it's so calming. It's like a day at the spa. And even if I'm diving into challenging ideas and whatnot, it's actually pretty stress free. That said, I for me, it's about making great videos and being really proud of the work that I make. It's I don't care. I care about views. I wanted the video to do well. And when you put 65 hours into a video, you're hoping that it resonates with people and that it helps you grow what you're doing and you can reach more people. But I care far more about looking back at that video and being wow, that I'm really proud of that. And I just think that my time and effort can only go so far. And one ways to unlock making better videos is hiring better people. And I know I'm a pretty good cinematographer. I'm a pretty good filmmaker, but it's not it's not what I dedicate everything to right now. And there's a limit to what I can capture filming myself. And I actually really don't like filming myself. And so for me, bringing somebody else that is dedicating their life to cinematography and creating better visuals through their camera work is going to help make my videos better, which makes me feel better about the work that I'm making. I'm feeling less stressed filming because I don't have to think about 100 different things while I'm capturing it. I can look back at the footage and be wow, that was a lot better than what I could have done by myself. Even something as simple as I did a video that I ran for, a mile a day for 30 days, going out and about and setting up the camera, running past the camera, running back, grabbing the camera, getting a different shot. It is the most frustrating. I really, really don't like that. And I do think that while there was a time when I had to do that, I don't really have to do that right now. I have the ability to invest in people and hire talent that can get that shot better, get it quicker, get more unique angles that I couldn't think of. And again, if it facilitates if it takes something off my plate that stresses me out, great. If it helps me make better videos, then that's even better. And so I think those are the things that I'm looking at when I'm trying to find somebody to bring on to the team and to bring on to collaborate. And I am also looking for that unique trait that you can't really capture in a application. And it's just like, how well do you vibe with the person? How well can you collaborate and work with that person? It's not at the top of the list, because I think sometimes you can let vibe kind of, I think, hijack your decision-making process. You're like, oh, I really like this person. Like, at the end of the day, you're not hiring a friend. You're hiring somebody to do a job. And so I think it's a balance. Like, you want to be able to collaborate with this person, but then also at the same time, you want them to create excellent work.
Yeah. And I mean, just talking to that example of the 30-day running challenge, there is also something that like is a little bit like feels cringe setting up cameras and walking back, and
That's the worst.
there is just something odd about it, isn't there? So to kind of just have someone there kind of normalizing that moment, I think will make a difference to the output as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to put it. It just normalizes it, and like it makes you feel like less shy or less alone in that moment. If I'm gonna be doing, I've got like a bunch of videos lined up in terms of exploring minimalism today and what's changed over the past 10 years. And so it's something as simple as like going with an architect and touring a space that they built. Like, there's something so unnatural about holding up a camera.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, here I mean, you don't have to do that voice. You can act like a normal person. You can be like, hey, I'm here with blah, 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 or like, hey, what's going on? Like, it's just it feels so narcissistic, even though maybe it's not, but it just feels so kind of like, it does feel like a little bit like self-obsessed and like really cringy. And it's very different if you have two camera guys or girls, and they're capturing this scene, and you get to just be yourself and have a conversation with somebody, and then they do all the creative work. You obviously pause and you collaborate on the different shots that you want to get, but it does, in a sense, to your point, normalize it and make it feel a whole lot more comfortable. Some people could feel the pressure of having extra camera crew there. For me, it helps me like relax and be like, oh, okay, they've got this. I'm not a weirdo holding a camera, and like, I've done that, and I just don't feel good about it. And again, if something feels weird or you don't like it, you can hopefully, like, if like, luckily, like in my position, I can hire somebody to do that. You could also start to work towards, hey, what's the roadmap to not having to do this in 6 months or a year's time?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is it does come through on camera, right? So, wherever you can kind of make things better, like change the vibe, it'll definitely come across. So definitely carefully thought out, and I'm excited to see the crew coming along. So let's then go on to that newsletter that I alluded to. You mentioned that it was a Monday, and you weren't in a great spot. You've got so many responses from that, but I just want to quickly touch on that as far as a messy middle goes. So the title of this newsletter, for everyone who isn't subscribed, do subscribe, was I'm Spiraling. And, as part of that, you kind of vulnerably shared, some of the like a rut that you were kind of in, and trying to, get that spark that we've just spoken about. So it's good to know that you're on the other side. But some of the stuff that you were kind of mentioning in there. So this is a direct quote. Back then, I was one of YouTube's creators on the rise. Now it feels like I'm just a washed up creator repeating the same old lines into a different camera. And that really hit me because, as a kind of viewer, subscriber, someone who's been following for a long time, like I totally don't get that. Like it just doesn't, you don't feel it, right? Your content is so well thought through. It always feels so authentic. So, to put that on a page was very interesting to see. But then I suppose the kind of, coming through at the end where you consult your wife on this, and it all comes back down to like the goal, where, she sort of puts things into perspective and says, what's the goal? Is it to be the biggest and the best, or to have balance, contentment, and freedom? So talk us through a little bit about that rut, and I suppose having the courage to put something on the page, to the response that you received from it, and where you were at on that day.
Yeah, so this was me coming back to work after taking 3 weeks off to go to the US. And that's kind of the context heading into it, that like I was feeling some momentum. I was feeling like, all right, I'm starting to build something and rebuild what I'm, this business that I feel like a lot of pieces were missing. And then I took this 3-week break, which isn't a very long time. It was also fraught with like sleep deprivation and meltdowns 30,000 feet above the ground. So there was like a lot of stress through those 3 weeks, and then getting back and then being like, okay, now I gotta get back to it. And just looking at my whole business and being like, what? Like, it felt so like there was nothing that I was coming back to. Like, I feel like I've been building this business for 10, 15 years. You would expect that there would be a sales funnel. You would expect that there would be some automation, some stuff in place, there are like systems in the background, things that like I do. Okay, now that I'm going to start a video, I like have a certain process for how I go about these things. But they're like, I just feel like there was so much that I neglected in this business, that I was like just frustrated with myself for not having been further. You know, when you've been doing this for that long, you just feel like you should, like it didn't even feel like a business. It's like if I'm gone, then it just everything else disappears. And so I started to really get in my head about it and get really frustrated about where I was. And so part of it was talking with Nat. It was like messaging with her. One of the best ways that we can really communicate these days, having 2 kids that are very loud and always want to interrupt you, is just through text message now. And so we were just like texting each other during the day. And she was like really helpful in terms of kind of talking me off the ledge. And again, like what you said, it's like focus on what you're doing this for. You know, it was never about being the biggest or the best or whatever, or even having like these systems and automation set up. It's like, yeah, they're all great, and they'll come when you start to walk down that path and figure out what to do. But for now, it's like focus on the balance, focus on the freedom, focus on the joy of creating. And so the first thing that I did, it was all I could do because it was all I could think about, was just to start to write down my experience, write down this conversation that I had with Nat, write down these thoughts that I was having about my business and the frustrations that I had, where I'm like feeling like I have nothing to show for all the work that I put in. Like, what have I been doing all of this time? And obviously the work is still there. It's like the channel's there. I still publish a video and it gets a lot of views because I've put in 10 years into, developing that audience and building up that subscriber base. But yeah, it was for me, and the response was amazing. I mean, I got like 100, 200 email responses from that, that never happens. And it was just, it was cool. It was also like looking back on it, I'm like, I did a follow-up email the week after because I wanted people to realize that like this was a moment of doubt.
Sure.
It wasn't me, and because a lot of people were like, Matt, I think you should quit. Somebody's like, I never actually tell people to do, I've never told somebody to do this before, but I think maybe this is not for you. I think maybe you should quit. And I was like, I don't think people really understood that this is just what you go through. What not everybody goes through, but what a lot of creators go through. Like they struggle with these moments of doubt of like, what am I doing? Like I have these moments all the time where I feel, not all the time, but like once a month where I'm like, what am I even doing? Like, what am I working on? Like where is this all going? And that might be small. It might be like just the video that I'm working on where I'm like just stuck. I'm like, what is this video even about? Or it could be like existential about like this business. Like, what am I still going to be a YouTuber when I'm 60 years old? Like, what's going on? What am I building? And I think it's about pushing through and working through those feelings of self-doubt and continuing to create through it. Sometimes taking breaks when you need to, but like creating through the doubt and allowing yourself to keep going and not letting those voices override the main vision and the main drive and the main reason why you do it, which is like the joy of the craft, the joy of making stuff, the joy of connecting with people. So yeah, that was kind of the idea behind the newsletter. And so then I did do a follow-up email where I was like, hey guys, everything's okay.
I'm good.
It was just a couple days. It was a couple bad days that I happened to just publish an email to 100,000 people. But yeah, it was really cool to see that it connected. It did resonate with a lot of people who go through the same thing. And that's what I was hoping to do.
Absolutely. And as we just spoke about, a couple of minutes ago, like it just again shows that, the journey's never over. There's always kind of challenges to work through. So one of the things that was really interesting there for me was to hear you kind of looking back on everything so far and saying that you have nothing to show for it. And why I say that was really interesting for me is because, I'm on a pivot journey away from sort of a corporate lifestyle into more of a creative lifestyle, kind of going 3 days a week now in my corporate role. And one of the things that I sort of thought about definitely a lot of the time was in this corporate role, I literally, at the end of my career, after 60 years of, 40 years of working, will look back and literally have nothing to show for it, no tangible kind of a deliverable. Whereas, like you say, you will look back on your channel and you've got all of this work. I totally still understand, where you were coming from, but there is just something to be said about a creative career where you are like producing a body of work, kind of leaving a legacy in a way, I suppose, if you think of it that way, compared to, just clocking in, clocking out at a company and ultimately having nothing to show for it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't think that you need to make a huge impact to be able to look back and be proud of what you've created. I think it's like, this might be corny, but I do think it's more about the pivot and making that change. Like when you look back on your life and the decisions that you made and the impact that you made and your whole career, let's say, I think you'd regret more those decisions that you didn't choose to make. Like if you take this pivot and you try to go the full-time creator route and it completely fails, I do think that you would look. I don't think it's gonna, by the way. It's just for the record. But that's always the risk, and it's the risk that we all take. And it's like everything that I'm doing could fall apart the next minute, and then I'd have to either be left with like trying to rebuild or just like going and getting a job again, or working at a cafe. But I think it's like being able to look back and be proud, and proud of the decisions you made, proud of the fact that you had the courage to just go for it. I think it's so scary in those moments of pivoting, of trying to do something, whether you're not sure it's going to work out or not. And I think it's like, I've always been proud of the moments when I leaned into the fear, when I leaned into the pivot, and I felt like, you know what, I might fall on my face, but at least I would have tried. And if I have to go back and get a job after this, or I have to, work at a cafe, that's fine. I'll be happy knowing at least I tried.
Yeah, exactly. And, a friend of mine who I was actually talking to, just the other day is kind of going through that same thing where did a pivot, it's now sort of not working out anymore. And it is kind of this process of, okay, what am I going to do next? But still, being proud of the fact that you tried. And, that is kind of in your life story, which is awesome. And yeah, I suppose it's all of these kind of uncertainties, the failures really that kind of make a person. So, yeah. Totally agree on that. Talking about, I guess, pivots and, the reason for this podcast, there are obviously a lot of people listening who will be kind of in that cubicle at the moment and kind of in that headspace where, they have aspirations to do something creative. It might be YouTube, it might not be. Obviously, you have, you mentioned in the intro, created an amazing course called Mastered YouTube, which is a full roadmap in terms of getting started, kind of, figuring out what you want to make and, giving people tangible tools about, how to actually get started. So, tell us a little bit about your course. I'll obviously be leaving a link down in the description below, and for full transparency, it is an affiliate link. But yeah,
what a plug! What a generous plug. Well, it's been cool. I gotta say, it's been cool to be able to pay you as well for like some of the affiliates that you've brought in. I think is a pretty neat thing to see that. Whenever you make a genuine recommendation, when a product helps you, I think it shows, and it's cool to see like you start to bring in some people into the Master YouTube community. Thanks for teeing that up so nicely for me. I would say, Master YouTube for me is like, it's not to do a big pitch. Like if you want to join the course, great. There's an amazing community attached to it, and I've recently restructured the entire thing from scratch, going 2 pathways. So it's basically 2 courses in one. One is like the strategy of understanding how to execute on YouTube, and what's like the what do you have to know about YouTube and growing a YouTube channel today in 2016, and then also how do you make great videos. I think that's the key component that a lot of people miss out on. It's like, how do you tell really great stories? How do you have an effective opener? How do you have an engaging storyline and story arc from point A to point Z? And I think like the unique thing about this course and this community is that these aren't the growth hackers. So there's a world where the growth strategists and the YouTube strategists and the people that are trying to hack the algorithm or really focus on growth at all costs. This is really about doing it in a sustainable way, doing it in a way where you're not compromising yourself to the algorithm. So how can you create an engaging title and thumbnail without it being clickbait? I think that's a really important question. How do you not... I mean, because it's like, this is what I relate to as a creator. It's like, I don't want to go the sensational route. I just want to make great videos that connect with people. And like, yes, you have to think about the title and thumbnail and how to package this and how to make it clickable and how to make sure that when somebody clicks it, they feel like they're going to get the return on the promise that you offered up in the title and thumbnail. But I do think it's one of those things that you also want to find joy in what you're creating, and you want to leave yourself with some dignity and self-respect when you hit publish, and you're like, oh, I'm proud of that video, not, oh my God, I hope my family and friends don't see that I made that title and that thumbnail because it's so embarrassing. But yeah, it's been an amazing thing. It's one of the things that I'm most proud of and that I'm happiest about. I'm most proud of doing, because when I look back on it, it's like starting this YouTube community gets to the core of what my passion is, which is making videos and also helping other creators. And so I don't really get to do that with the YouTube videos that I make every day. And so I think that's been the most rewarding thing about it.
Yeah, and it's so great to see you like every week in the comments, sort of replying to people's new videos, or asking for ideas. And what's also been really cool to see over the years is how there is always at any one given point in time, there is always kind of like a lead champion on the Master YouTube community. Someone who kind of just decides they're going to which is, it's just so cool. It's I suppose for them it's so empowering, and they also are having a bit of an impact with different people as they're all on the same journey, right?
It's really funny that you say that. It's like there's been people that have either become formal moderators or just like have just grabbed the torch and is like, hey, I'm going to be the moderator now. And they're like, you see them in every single chat and every single thread. And I think that's a very unique thing, I think, about this community. And it's like, that's the thing too. It's like, sometimes these communities, and there's others out there, like they're helpful for different paths and different periods of your path. And sometimes you come back to them, sometimes you leave them for a bit, but the community is always there. And I think it's great to see people like come and go and take the torch when they want to take it.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll see you in that community if you do have any aspirations to kind of start creating on YouTube. And as I said, tons of good stuff in there. In terms there, Matt, it comes through in your videos. It comes through in the way that you manage your course, in the way that you even sell your things, like you just said right now. There is definitely like a strong rooting to kind of good ethics, which, as you said, I think it's become so easy for people to get swept up in sensationalism and, kind of losing that like moral compass, which I really admire, and, something that I find, really important as well. There's a particular video that comes to mind when we talk about this, and that is the problem with self-help gurus. Just to first sort of start off with, that was incredibly courageous, that video, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, because I think it's only fair that someone sort of calls out when people are kind of lying, and to have the courage to kind of make something like that is really, really impactful. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your thinking about kind of grounding everything in good ethics and some of the trade-offs in putting something like that out there.
Oh, it's a good question. I have to be like making that video. This is really funny, like kind of behind the scenes. But in the video, I'm quite critical of Jay Shetty, as a lot of people on the internet have been. I'm not the only one, or certainly not the first. But I was using him as an example throughout the video of the ways in which I think self-help gurus kind of take the wrong path and aren't doing things for the betterment of their audience, but are doing it for the betterment of their bank accounts. And I had, for weeks after publishing that video, I had dreams about Jay Shetty. Where like Jay, I was like, Jay's like, yo, I saw the video, man. That was not cool. Cause like background, like Jay had DM'd me at one point. I didn't include this info in the video, but he had DM'd me and I think just like said, hey, like just want to say that I love your work. And at the time I had known that he had a reputation for stealing other people's content and work, and I just didn't reply because I was like, I don't know how I feel about you. I haven't looked into your work enough. And it was like, I think important for me to create a little bit of distance, because it is hard, because actually one of the keys that I talked about in terms of like one of the problems with self-help gurus is this idea of reciprocity, and that when you build relationships with people and connect with people, you naturally feel inclined to support that person. And so like it would like it actually it's very hard to uphold your integrity in these kinds of situations, and I think anybody would feel the same way. Like imagine if there was a world in which before I made this video I had actually met with Jay Shetty, or like he came on my podcast and I interviewed him. Like it's easy to look at a CoffeeZilla video and be like, this guy is just like a champion of just taking people down, and like he's like he to me he's incredibly courageous, and he's just constantly going after people and holding people's feet to the fire. For regular, not that he's not a regular person, but like for regular everyday people, it's like it's really difficult if you've built relationships and connections with people in person then to talk about them badly. And so I genuinely don't know if I would have made that video or if I would have critiqued Jay if I had built a relationship with him. Because I'm sure that like I know people who are friends. I actually like I'm friends of friends with him. Like I know friends who get along with him and who like him, and so I'm sure that he has traits that are admirable, and I'm sure he's very charismatic, and he's probably a fun person to hang out with. But I think the line gets blurred between like the moral decision making when you become friends, almost like when you become friends with too many people in the creator space. If like that's your role, that's what you're trying to do, is to like really expose people and take people down. You're probably you're not gonna have a good time if you're trying to make friends with people at the same time. And so you almost need to keep a healthy distance. I think that there's also like I appreciate the feedback that you've given me here, and that the other people have said about that video, and I'm proud of it. I do think it was like really scary for me to put that out there. I'm also not making a habit of going down that road, because I think it's that style of content, and just there's also a similar style of content that I've created in the past that's like more of like a negative lens on the world, which is like I think fair. Like even my last video that dove into consumerism and all of the problems with inequality and the system today, and how that leads to greater consumption. They're really important topics to talk about. But it's like sometimes our world is so freaking heavy that we need a little bit of an escape from it, or we need to actually focus on some positive things. So I try not to make my channel and my message entirely doom and gloom, while also having, like you said, like the integrity and the morals to look at the work that you're making, being like, was it honest? Like, am I proud of what I made? I think that's the most important thing when you're looking at your work. And I think honesty is something that's it's in less demand these days, but it's more important than ever.
Absolutely. And, I mean, it does just take a video like that to kind of slowly shift the tide. You're not going to necessarily erase everything that, in that particular example he's done or said that he's done that he's not actually done. But like it does start to kind of just hold people to account a little bit, and then becomes a little bit of a shift. So it's one of those kind of be the change type situations. And you're right. It's your channel is very much on the positive side of things, and you definitely work that walk that balance very well. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't worry too much about that. But thank you for making that kind of video, which I think is important, and rooting yourself in integrity in kind of everything you do, which says a lot. It really does, especially like you say, when a lot of creators kind of just fall down the monetizing sort of route. So I realize we're kind of reaching the end of our time here. What would a final message that you'd leave to someone who has kind of got a lot of inspiration from our episode, and kind of wants to get started, maybe doesn't know exactly where they want to get started, but they know they want to do something creative. What's your kind of biggest lesson in terms of living life as a creative?
Make more than you can consume. I think that's like the biggest takeaway. Like, it's so easy to get in this trap of like scrolling and bookmarking ideas and jotting and taking notes and always being in the consuming phase of the process and feeling as if somehow that's making progress towards your goals. And it's very, very easy to consume. It's also the more you consume, the more likely you are, I think, to get paralyzed by the decisions and the choices that you have to make about your creative journey. The more that you compare yourself to others and see these other people making amazing videos or writing amazing newsletters and being like, how am I ever going to be able to make something that good? You're not going to make it that good by consuming that content. You're going to make it good by putting your phone down and getting to work and making stuff. And so there's a point in the process where consuming is important, but then eventually you have to push that to the side and just create as much as you possibly can. It's something that I still learn to these days. So there's periods where I'm just consuming a whole lot and I'm taking a whole lot of notes. And, then there's periods where I'm like, all right, I think I've learned enough through all of this research, quote unquote. That's what I say when I'm just scrolling my phone for 3 hours a day. Now I need to make a lot of stuff. And I think that's how you develop your voice. That's how you get better. That's how you eventually pave your own way as a creator.
Matt, thank you so much. This conversation has been such a treat for me. And, as I look back on my kind of career arc, hopefully this is, also one of those moments in the story, but it certainly is a milestone. It feels like a milestone to kind of be on this conversation. So thank you so much for your time. And I've had a really good time. And, I think there'll be a lot of learnings for people who've tuned in.
Oh, thanks, Chad. I'm honored to be on the show and honored that you would think that this would even be a milestone. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for listening to what truly was a milestone moment for me, sitting down with Matt Diavella. What a conversation. If you haven't delved into Matt's work just yet, I've linked his YouTube channel in the description down below, and I strongly encourage you to go and get lost in his videos. I've also included the link to his documentary, Minimalism, on Netflix. Now, if your pivot journey involves starting a YouTube channel, I can't recommend Matt's course, Master YouTube, highly enough. I've left a link down below, both to the course and also to my honest review of it. Both of these links are affiliate links, and so using these links goes a long way in supporting this channel, this podcast, and all of the other things that I create. And I really appreciate that. I'm building one pivot away just as much for me as for you, as I am navigating my own pivot journey out of the corporate world. If you found value in today's episode, please hit that like button down below and consider subscribing. By subscribing, you're joining a community of people choosing passion, fulfillment, and intentionality over the safe bet. And finally, if you know someone, a friend, a colleague, a partner who is buried under spreadsheets or spiraling in a cubicle, please send this episode their way. Just like Matt said, remind them to make more than they consume and show them that another life is possible. I'm Chad Sturley, and I'll see you in the next episode for another story of someone who found the courage to make their pivot.